And joining us now is Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Sir, thanks for being here. What's happening on the ground right now? Are you seeing any troops yet?
No, not at the moment. I think what we have done is we filed a lawsuit yesterday to get in the courts and get in front of a judge as quickly as possible. Earlier this morning, we filed a temporary restraining order to pause the president's actions, really talking about why he has exceeded his authority and can't national or federalize the National Guard here in Oregon. Again, you got to remember, this is Oregon. You got to remember, this is America. We don't use the United States military in our cities. That's not something we do except under incredibly extreme circumstances.
Dear viewer, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a heart in the comments so this video reaches more people.
The president has called Portland a hotbed of insurrection. He says ICE facilities there are under siege by Antifa and others who he calls domestic terrorists. To be fair, there have been protests, sometimes violent, outside Portland ICE locations. How do you respond to those specific claims and justification for sending troops?
I think we've got to ground ourselves in how our president gets his facts, and he does that through social media. He doesn't do that by picking up the phone and talking to real people on the ground. If you were to look in Portland over the last couple of weeks and you were to talk to the Portland police, you'd find that there is more activity around the nightlife of Portland than there is around the ICE facility. And obviously, federalizing the National Guard doesn't improve the way we think about how the president is determining facts. So this is just a reality check for the president. You got to do your homework. You got to look at what's really going on in a city before you start trying to make these bold statements and frankly misleading the American people and starting to normalize the use of our U.S. military in American cities.
You filed your suit in advance of an actual deployment, which is different than we've seen in other places, whether it was D.C. or what we saw in Los Angeles. Why take that strategy and lay out the case for our viewers?
Yeah, listen, you have a president that has started to attack our independent judiciary. He's attacked free press, and now you've seen the normalization of the United States military in American cities. We are not a third world country. We are America. It's happened in California, D.C. He's doing it in Memphis. He's talking about it in Illinois, and we received formal orders at 9:32 yesterday morning on Sunday. And it was my instruction at the Oregon Department of Justice that I wanted to be in court within 12 hours of a formal order. And we have amazing people that work at the Oregon Department of Justice, and we did it in less than 6 hours. And so that's why it's so darn important. We have to draw a line in the sand. This is America. We have the police, the Portland Police Department, amazing police department, is doing a wonderful job in keeping communities safe. We have the Oregon State Police, we have the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and we have an incredible district attorney in Multnomah County doing the work to keep the public safe. You don't need the U.S. military walking our streets in any country, in any city. That's not.
All right, the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, suing the Trump administration to block deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops to Portland. The president says he's doing it to protect ICE facilities. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry. And the administration clearly thinks this is a winning issue for them as they keep on doing it and leaning in. What do the polls say?
Yeah, this is fact check time. You know, the idea, we're going to be hawkish on crime, we're going to be hawkish on immigration. It's good for us. But in fact, not necessarily. What are we talking about here? All right, Trump deploying National Guards to cities in the United States of America. Look at this. Just 42% of Americans support that idea of sending troops into cities like Portland. What about the opposition? Look at this. It's the lion's share. 58% opposed, and we're talking about 64% of independents who are opposed. So if Donald Trump thinks that potentially sending in the National Guard into cities like Portland is a winning political issue, the polling says, you are wrong, Mr. President.
The most analogous situation is what happened in Los Angeles, correct? What happened to the numbers there after the president did that then?
Yeah, we've heard this music before, right? We've heard this song before. And what happened the last time that Trump sent National Guards into a western city? Well, take a look at the change in Trump's net approval. Overall, it dropped 4 points. How about on immigration, which of course those protests were about? Look at that. It dropped by 7 points. So we have history of Donald Trump sending the National Guard into a Western city. And what happened was there were clear political ramifications for the President of the United States, and they were not good ramifications. What happened was his overall approval rating dropped by 4 points, and his immigration approval, which had been his best issue up to that point, dropped by 7 points, went from net positive territory to net negative territory.
And in this case, he says he's doing it to protect ICE facilities, which brings us to the issue of ICE in general. What are opinions on this incident?
Yeah, so let's take a look at ICE approval. All right, ICE's net popularity rating. You know, in Trump's first term, it was at 0 points. Not too great, but not too bad either. But take a look now. Look at this. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that agency, look at that. Minus 14 points. Down it goes because of their actions during the second Trump term. In fact, the Pew Research Center polled 16 different agencies. ICE's net popularity rating was 15th out of 16th. It was close to being the least popular of all. This bottom line is, John, the president may think this is a politically winning issue for him, but the numbers tell a very different story. It's, in fact, a political loser.
Interesting. All right, Harriet, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Sarah.
All right, joining me now is Congressman Brad Schneider, Democrat of Illinois. Thank you so much for being here. You just heard that polling. Trump is sending troops to Portland. He's also just increased the ICE presence for raids in your state, and he says he will send troops to Chicago at some point, although he had promised that before sending them to Portland, right after he sent troops to Washington, D.C. How do you think the state and local government should respond?
Well, I think what you've seen in Chicago, Illinois, is the way we need to address it. The governor's been very clear. ICE is not welcome to do what they're doing here. They're literally going around terrorizing our communities, tackling people, bringing them to the ground, physical violence, terrorizing communities, not keeping the community safer, but actually making people scared and frightened. And with respect to the National Guard, the governor said they're not needed here. We've all been together on this. I visited Naval Station Great Lakes with Senator Durbin and Senator Duckworth to talk to the base, making sure that their mission of training our sailors is protected and not abused by the president. The bottom line is the president's trying to provoke violence. He's trying to create a situation where he can justify the actions he wants to take. It's a totalitarian playbook that we've seen play out in other places, and it has no place.
America.
You brought up a few other cities. Your lawsuit claims the president has repeatedly attacked Democrat-led cities and states over immigration enforcement. Do you believe that's really what's behind this?
You know, I'm not sure exactly what is behind the president's motive. Clearly, he's either recklessly relying on social media gossip, or this is truly meant to, strike a political moment where he'll get some celebratory, streaming issue that he'll be able to, point his finger to and say, look, I did something. When it comes to outcomes, this is not how you improve public safety. You improve public safety by picking up the phone, talking to elected officials, talking to leaders in the community, saying, what do you need to improve public safety? And you know what? There are cities and states across this country that would love that type of a collaborative conversation with any president. But that's not what's going on right now. What he's doing is abusing a power to federalize the National Guard. And remember, the way you do that, the way you do it legally, it's very extreme circumstances. That's when we're being invaded, an invasion, a rebellion, or you cannot effectuate the laws of the United States. None of those things are happening in Oregon right now.
Do you see this? Trump is portraying Portland as a war zone, but that's not the reality. People are going about their daily lives. The police are doing their job, but for Trump, reality doesn't matter. His only concern is headlines and cameras. He wants to send the army into the streets by saying there's a riot. This isn't about security, it's about the stage. He's creating chaos and marketing himself as the savior. This isn't defending democracy, it's destroying democracy. Trump's goal isn't to protect the people, it's to amplify fear, because if fear grows, he can sell himself as the strong leader. What's being played out over us is theater, but the consequences will be very real. Now pay attention. This tactic isn't new to us. First he attacked the judiciary, then he declared the press the enemy. Now he is trying to normalize the military in American cities. This is not security, it is authoritarianism. Look at history. The same game has been played everywhere. The people are intimidated, the army is brought in. The leader presents himself as the savior. That is exactly what Trump is doing. The danger is this. Once we get used to seeing soldiers on the streets, it will be very difficult to turn back. And then what we call democracy will become just a war. This plan is organized, deliberate and dangerous, and if we turn a blind eye to it, we become accomplices. And I'm telling you, this isn't just a Portland issue. Today, Oregon, tomorrow, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. Who's next? Maybe your city? There are no limits for a president who uses displays of force to intimidate the people. The majority does not want this plan. Polls clearly show it, but Trump doesn't care. Because it's not about security, it's about the lust for power. That's exactly why we have to say, don't normalize this process. If we remain silent, we will be next, and then it will be too late. Now we either resist or surrender to authoritarianism. Thank you for watching.